Poker has been around for over 150 years. Its popularity among mainstream Americans has never been greater. Televised tournaments have piqued their interest, in part because of the colorful characters involved in the game. Chris Ferguson, known simply as Jesus among poker fans, is one of the best players in the world. He won the World Series of Poker Championship in 2000, will compete again in June of this year. I am pleased to have him here to explain this game to us. Not how to play poker, but the popularity. Here's what I hear. First of all, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here.
I mean, it is that little mini-cam that did it, didn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And poker's been televised for a long, long, long time. I think they televised poker tournaments nearly 30 years ago. They had televised poker tournaments. And the one tournament that would be televised every year, I think, since then, was the World Series of Poker.
Right.
But it never had a huge following on TV. The ratings were never that big until about 3 years ago. And the reason the ratings are big now is because they have hole card cams. So while people are making decisions around the table, and they're making these incredibly complicated decisions about what to do with a hand, you get to know what cards they have. You, the audience, get to know what cards they have. And it just makes it so much more interesting.
And you can just you're thinking about what you would play if you had playing the hand. And so that makes it almost participatory.
Yeah, exactly. And in the past, playing poker has been likened to watching paint dry. So you go and you watch a live poker event, it's really dull, except there are moments where it's very exciting. And one of the problems is you have a guy you want to win this tournament. A guy makes a big bet into him, and you don't know what you're rooting for this guy to do. Maybe you think he has a big hand. I don't know if I want him to re-raise or fold or call, because I don't know what he has and I don't know what his opponent has.
Right.
But now that I know what both of them have, it's just exciting watching this guy make this really, really tough decision. Is he going to raise here? Is he going to raise here and lose all his chips, or is he going to fold and make a great play, or just call and lose some of his chips? It's just amazing. It makes it just amazingly wonderful to watch.
What makes a great poker player?
I think what all the great poker players have in common is that they're all really, really intelligent. It doesn't, poker brings people from all different walks of life to the table. You have people with PhDs, people with high school educations, or even a third grade education, and they're all playing against each other. But the thing is, no matter what kind of education they have, they're all really incredibly intelligent people, and they're all really able to think about the game in the right way.
And you? When did you get interested?
I played poker all my life. In fact, my father used to teach game theory at UCLA. So playing games has been part of my life since I was a little kid, for as long as I can remember. When I was growing up, my father used to bring home games, new games that he'd invented, or friends of his had invented.
A lot of smart people I know like games, like Bill Gates.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a poker player.
And a games player. I mean, loves everything.
And a big bridge player also.
Right, exactly. Especially bridge. He and Warren Buffett, two of the richest people in the world, love bridge. And it's the intellectual challenge and the mathematical challenge. I mean, it has some of the same elements that poker does.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't have the bluffing element as much.
No.
Right?
Yeah, there's no bluffing. There might be a teeny amount of bluffing in bridge, but there really isn't. And you're not allowed to read your opponents, in a sense, in bridge. But there's no reading of your opponents really in bridge.
The intelligence works to give you what in poker? Is it the counting of the cards kind of thing that they talk about?
Yeah, people say how much mathematics is involved in poker, and to me, there are two things about poker. One is knowing the math. In other words, what are the chances I'm going to win with this hand versus my opponent? And it's actually not that hard to come up with a number. If you know what your hand is and you know what your opponent's hand is, it's not that hard to come up with a number. It doesn't take that much intelligence. But the question is, what do you do with the knowledge? What do I do with the knowledge that I have a much better hand than my opponent? Does that mean I should raise him, or does that mean I should just call him and maybe raise him on a later street, because there might be more rounds of betting?
Everybody wants me to ask you these kinds of questions, so I'll just do some of them. And one of them is what makes a great player. And secondly, the idea, I've read once, you can spot an amateur. You can sit down with a guy or a woman that and hasn't played that much, may be good but not great, and spot things that they do. What are some of the indications of a player that doesn't have the requisite experience to hold up?
I think it's a lot of it's the way they hold their cards. I think it's a lot of it's the way they handle their chips and stuff like this. But I really don't think it's a particular skill of expert poker players to spot amateurs. I think anyone will be able to spot amateur players.
Okay, other than the way they hold their cards, what else?
For me, it's the intensity. I mean, if you're looking at a professional poker player, you watch the top pros on TV. They all have this intensity about them, this intense concentration on what's going on, and for me, that's the thing that the amateurs aren't going to have as much as the top players.
Beyond knowing the cards, is it possible to read a face and know whether they're bluffing or not?
A lot of the time it is. A lot of the time it isn't. Yeah. So it's.
I mean,
sometimes. I mean, you can't rely on that.
Yeah.
You can't rely on that. If you're a great reader of people, that doesn't make you a great poker player necessarily.
Yeah. Here's a picture of you. With you wear the dark glasses. The one time I saw you on television, you were wearing the dark glasses.
Yeah.
You always do. You do that because you don't want them to see your eyes, or what?
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean,
or it's just showmanship and.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit of each. Part of it's I don't want people reading me. I mean, I have tells on a lot of the top poker players, so I'm not. You know, and if they're going around saying, "Oh, I don't have any tells," that's fine. That's happy with me. I have a lot of tells on them. I'm guessing they have some tells on me.
What's a tell?
Excuse me. Yeah, a tell is actually an unconscious thing that you do that would belay the strength of your hand.
Give me an example of a tell.
Here's the classic tell, and that amateurs and even some pretty good players will do is. And it's actually subconscious. People aren't aware that they're doing it,
Right.
but when they're bluffing, they actually tend to act like they have a stronger hand. And it's all subconscious. I mean, I think if you're not aware of this, you're going to do it. It's when you're bluffing, you actually act like you have a stronger hand, so you actually put about a bet much more forcefully.
Okay,
You know,
give
so
me another one. That's a good one. Yeah.
And the opposite is true. In fact, when you have a really strong hand, you're going to want your opponent to call. So. You know, and it's not even a conscious decision you make. I have a strong hand, I want my opponent to call. So, and subconsciously I'm thinking, what do I do to make my opponent call? Well, I act weak. I go, I don't know if this hand is strong enough to bet.
But if you say that, I mean, we know you're bluffing.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking this.
Yeah.
Subconsciously I'm thinking, I don't know if my hand's strong enough to bet. So I'll make a movement like, and throw in my chips like with a shrug of the shoulders or something like that.
Yeah.
And that'd be another subconscious tell that would, you know, and generally amateur.
And how do you said you got guys looking for tells on other players? Or you doing it?
Yeah, no. I mean, you're always looking for tells on your opponents. But to me, actually, the tells aren't really the most important factor that make a good poker player.
What is?
And it's also not the most important factor for reading what your opponent has. What you want to do is you watch how your opponent plays hands. So there are a lot of great poker players, and they play very different styles. Some are extremely aggressive. Some will wait a long time for a better hand and push that hand. So you have to know what style you're up against, and you have to fashion the way you play your particular hand against your opponent's particular style.
And what would they say about your style? What would the best players who compete against you say about your style?
That's a good question. See, I've heard a lot of different people say different things about my style. Some people say I'm a very tight, I'm a very conservative player. Some people say that I play a lot of hands. In other words, I like to gamble up a lot. And to me, that shows that I'm doing something right, because what I do is I change my style depending on how my opponent's playing. So if my opponents are going to be very passive, I'm going to play a very aggressive style. You know, I'm going to be pushing them around. I'm going to be trying to win a lot of pots for them. But if they're going to be fooling around in a lot of pots, then I might sit back a little bit and wait for a big hand so I can punish them when they come in. So it all depends, and so it really all depends on my opponent, the way I'm going to play at any given time.
What's your best moment in poker?
The best moment had to be winning the World Series of Poker in 2000.
You think you'll be able to do it again?
I don't. I sure hope so, but I don't think so.
You don't think so?
It's so hard to win these days, and let me give you an example. When I won the World Series, I think there were 512 people competing in the World Series of Poker. Last year, there were over 2,500, and this year, they expect over 5,000 people to compete in the World Series of Poker, and it's just such amazing odds to overcome that there are a lot of top poker players. There may be 200 top poker players that we know of, and there may be like 300 or 400 people that we don't know of that can play a really, really, really strong game. And it's really up for grabs for any one of these people.
Over the last 5 years, this will be the 2005 World Series. You won 2000, so in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, were you surprised at the winner? I mean, did anybody just come out of nowhere and you had no idea who this person was?
Yes, in fact, that's most likely what's going to happen. I haven't known, I don't think I've really known the winners as top poker players for the last 4 years before they won the event.
How do you practice?
I play a lot of poker, so I don't do that much more practicing as practicing poker.
Just playing.
It's pretty much just playing, and I'll play all the major televised events over the course of a year, and there might be 30 of them, and their buy-ins are usually around $10,000.
Yeah. Here's the question I'm asking in a different way too. Suppose suppose I'm invested in you, and you're my friend, and I want you to win, and suppose I know everybody in the world. And suppose that, and especially all the people who are involved in terms of games theory and how to win things and all of that, and let's say all the software, I know the best software programmers in the world. Is there something that I could take somebody who's good, and you're among the best? Is there anything that I could do to make you better in terms of giving you some kind of mental agility drills? You know, you posit everybody has intelligence who gets to that level. Is there anything you can do, anything you do or anything anybody else does to get you ready?
Yeah. I've actually written a lot of programs in the past to study poker, and that's really one of the main ways that I study poker. I also use mathematics. I use game theory to study the game of poker. And so what I'll do is I might come across a poker situation that I haven't seen before, and I'm playing the game, and I don't really know what I should do in this situation.
Yeah.
So I might take this, and I take it at home, and I'll spend hours analyzing this particular situation. Might analyze it mathematically, might analyze it with computers. I've written a bunch of computer simulations to analyze specific situations in the game of poker. So that's a little edge that I have, that I feel that I have over most of my opponents.
And can you play online poker? Do people play online poker much?
Oh, absolutely. Online, I've actually played online poker for the last 15 or 16 years. Right now, online poker is a $2 billion a year industry.
Wow.
And it's only started maybe 6 or maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
It's a $2 billion a year
$2 billion a year industry right now. It's absolutely amazing. I've been playing actually for 15 years. Right now you can play online for money, but back in the day there was a place called IRC Poker where you could only play for play money.
Yeah.
I was a graduate student at UCLA back then, and I used to spend. That's why it took me so long to get my PhD, because I spent a lot of time playing on IRC Poker, and that's really where I learned to play poker. And the interesting thing is that a couple of years ago, people used to scoff at players that learned how to play poker on the internet.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the last 2 world champions actually qualified for the World Series of Poker by playing online. And so I think people have stopped scoffing at the internet players and berating them.
And you're a big advocate of that.
I'm a huge advocate of playing online. And in fact,
as a way to hone your skills, as a way to
do both.
And have fun.
And have fun. Even though I was playing for no money back in 1989 and 1990, when I was playing a lot on the internet. When I was playing a lot for play money on the internet, I really learned a lot about the game, especially No Limit Hold'em, because back then there were very few places to play No Limit Hold'em. Now No Limit Hold'em is very popular, so there are a lot of places to play. But even 5 or 6 years ago, there weren't that many places to play. In fact, I'm actually getting involved in the online poker industry, and a bunch of friends of mine, a bunch of the top players in the world, me, Howard Lederer, Eric Seidel, Eric Lindgren, Phil Gordon, Phil Ivey, John Jawanda, Andy Block. We've all got together, and we've actually founded a software development company called Tiltware, and we wrote the software for FullTiltPoker.com, which is the fastest growing online poker site out there.
What's it called?
It's called FullTiltPoker.com.
Yeah. Now, you played Texas Hold'em for the World Championship, is that right?
Yeah, it's No Limit Texas Hold'em is what's played in the World Championship.
And what is that?
It's actually a form of poker that hasn't been around that long. It's
10 years or so, or
it's might have been popular for maybe the last 20 years, but it's been around for about 40 or 50 years.
And what is it?
The No Limit Texas Hold'em. It's a form of 7-card stud.
Yeah.
Each player gets 2 down cards, which are hidden from everyone else. Then there's a round of betting.
Yeah.
Three cards are put up in the center of the table.
Right.
There's a round of betting. There's
face up.
Face up in the center of the table. A round of betting. The 4th card is put face up, and these are shared by all the players.
Right.
Normally in stud, each player gets his own up cards, but in Hold'em, you share the up cards.
Right.
And so you get 3. On the turn, there's a 4th, another round of betting. The last up card is put in the center of the table. The 5th one, called the river.
Yeah.
The final round of betting, and then you show your hands, and the player that can make the best 5-card hand out of his 2 and the 5 on the table, so he might use 3 from the table and 2 from his hand or whatever, wins the pot.
And why is that so popular? What does that have that other part?
That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure. It's it's just a very good balance. I guess in 7-card stud, I think the reason people came up with Hold'em from stud is they kept complaining that, oh man, how come he gets all the good cards, right? Yeah. I could beat this guy if we didn't get all the good cards. Well, now we're sharing the community cards, so it's a little bit harder to complain.
Yeah. Where is all this heading? Just more popularity, more popularity?
Nobody could have ever guessed. I mean, how wildly successful shows like the World Poker Tour and the World Series of Poker have become. And it's just, the popularity of poker has just exploded. And 3 years ago, or I think 3 years ago, there were 500 people in the World Series. Yeah. Now, this year, we expect 5,000. We've never seen a growth in poker like that. I remember 10 years ago, I was thinking, wow, they got 200 people willing to put up $10,000 a piece to play in this poker tournament. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Now we're about to have 5,000. That's incredible.
There are some people, Bill Safire being one, who's a columnist for the New York Times, retired, who writes frequently about the evil of gambling addiction, and some of them put poker playing and the mania over playing poker into this, one of the things that leads people into gambling addiction. You say?
I don't really know, but I'll tell you that I really think there's so much good that you can learn from poker, because poker, it's not a game of chance, it's also a game of skill. I could say that about people who play craps,
right,
or people who play roulette. That's really gambling, but to me there's a ton of skill in poker. There's a huge amount of skill in poker. So I think maybe poker's a way out of gambling.
All right. Chris Ferguson, it's great to have you on this program.
Thank you very much.
Much success in the World Series of Poker.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Chris Ferguson,